All right, all right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 21-day challenge. Go unstuck yourself. So excited to have this big of a group here. Where is everybody calling in from? Put it in the chat. You guys should have full access to chat and Q&A today. Bermuda. Oh my gosh. I'm jealous. Wow, we got some people all around the world. New Zealand, Denmark. Wow, wow, wow. All over the place. I'm calling in from San Diego, so it is very roasty, toasty, hot here today. All right, everybody. Well, again, thank you so much for joining. And congratulations, because the fact that you are here right now and making this investment in yourself, this large of a group, showing up for yourself, investing in you, investing your time in your own development, it sends a huge message. It sends the message that you are worth it. So show some love, blow it up with the reactions. I want to see a string of hearts in the reactions for yourself as well as everybody else that is here this afternoon. Woo! There we go. Y'all, again, thank you so much for joining. We are about to start a 3-week long journey together to uncover what exactly is it that is keeping us so stuck and addicted to stress and burnt out. We're going to dive into the brain science of mindset change and moving from a life of reacting to creating. So get ready, my friends. This week, we're really going to focus on understanding. Part one, understanding how is it that our beliefs are keeping us stuck. We can talk all day, every day when it comes to like burnout recovery about nervous system regulation and go do yoga and go do meditation. And do not get me wrong, all of those things are amazing and great. But so often when we get down to the root issue of it, it comes down to a mindset of beliefs. And you cannot solve a problem if we're not aware of the issue. After that, the next 2 weeks. So, by the way, if you registered for one part, then you are set for all 3 weeks. You should have calendar invites for the following 2 weeks as well. Week 2, we're going to dive into this whole idea of changing the program, changing the algorithm of your mind that is creating your reality this very second. And then week 3 is going to be all about specific strategies based in neurolinguistic programming, which I'll tell you a little bit more about as we kind of go along with things today. Basically, strategies and habits that you can use on yourself to change your brain in order to change your mind. So again, today starts off with really kind of understanding how are these beliefs formed and how exactly are they creating our present moment of reality right now. For those of you that are new to my workshops or new to me in general, just a little bit about myself, not to bore you too much. My name is Peter Goose. I am a mindset and human design coach focused primarily on supporting my millennial besties through burnout recovery. But I started my career as a teacher. Anybody that is a teacher, let me see you in the chat. You have all of my respect and love. But yeah, started off in the classroom and reached my first round of burnout and moved into teaching other teachers brain-based learning. And that's where I got big into neurolinguistic programming, NLP, and mindset work. That got me into kind of the training world of education technology, where I started climbing the corporate ladder of the tech world. I got totally addicted to stress as a way to prove my worth. Sound familiar? And then the pandemic hit. And 2020 was the brick wall for me, where I said, what am I doing with my life right now? I am giving away all of my energy towards somebody else's goals and dreams. And there was that nagging feeling in the back of me, deep in my gut, that was like, Peter, you're meant for something more than this. And so January 2022, I quit my job. I quit my full-time job. I still work part-time for them. They're an amazing company. I hold no resentment towards them whatsoever. But I took several months there just kind of figuring things out, bouncing around from one project to another, until, 6 months into that, I realized, Peter, you've got to take a break. Like, you are burnt the frack out and you have got to slow down. That is why you left your job. So last year, about this time, last June, is when I got on TikTok for the first time. I never thought I would be on like social media, let alone TikTok, but I was like, sure, why not? Let's do this. And I just started sharing my journey of millennial burnout and decided to, use what I know about brain science and mindset tools to do something to help, which leads me to today. Little did I know that I would be here with, 145,000 followers on TikTok, which is not at all about me, by the way. It's not about me tooting my own horn. It's about the importance of the conversation, right? And so today I am the founder of the Millennial Reset. I call myself a mindset coach, but I like to think about myself as a teacher. I am a teacher at heart, just teaching people what I have found to work, and now what I've learned from others, that it works for others as well. So, for all of you that are here, thank you again. If you're a millennial, amazing. If not, amazing. I work primarily with millennials, but the habits and strategies that you're going to learn over the next 3 weeks are going to work for anybody. And the only reason I focus on millennials is, let's be real, it's my experience. I can only talk about my beliefs, and teaching other people about mindset from my own experience. So that's why I focus so much on that population. So here I am, helping others to find their way out of burnout and into a life they're driven by intention. Because the unfortunate thing is, aside from therapy, there's really not a whole lot of other options out there to support with burnout recovery, and especially as it relates to mindset. And so we're here together for 3 weeks. And by the way, before we dive into things, folks, I do most of my workshops on a donations-based only system. And so you are not expected to pay for anything for this, because the last thing I want to do is, charge people hundreds of dollars and add to their financial stress when we're already stressed out enough, right? So just know that after each session, I'll send out the links, the resources, which will include a donation link if you'd like. Of course, it's greatly appreciated and it helps to support this work, but it is not by any means a requirement, because I truly want, as many people to have access to this as possible. So let's get in, team. Let's dive in. And by the way, just to answer a few questions here that have popped up in the chat, yes, this is being recorded and it's going to be sent out tomorrow after everything is kind of done processing. So as long as I got your email from registration, it'll be sent out tomorrow. So how do our beliefs create our reality? Let's start here, y'all. The Matrix. The Matrix isn't happening out here. It's not something that we're attached to, right? The Matrix is happening in here. It's happening in your mind. Your mind is creating your version of reality without you even knowing about it. And you're probably sitting here like, wow, Peter, we're going to go down a rabbit hole this early. What the heck do you mean, right? And so rather than me just telling you this, let's go ahead and allow you to experience this for yourself instead. So here we go. We all remember the viral trend, right? Was the dress blue and black, or was the dress white and gold? Put it in the comments. Come on. Which one was it? Is it blue and black? Is it white and gold? We don't know. It went viral, right? Because everybody had different responses. And take a look. Make sure y'all are doing your chats to everybody so everybody can see your responses. We've got multiple responses even with the image here. So that's just one example. You ready for the next one? I'm not done yet, folks. I'm not done. We're just getting started. Here's another one. I want you to listen to the audio that I'm going to play here. And I want you to put in the chat, what do you hear? Okay, listen to the audio carefully and put it in the chat, whatever you hear. Here we go. What do you hear? Put it in the chat. A bird chirp. Hold on a second. Maybe it's not playing. Hold on just a minute. Let me fix this for you here. Okay. Round two. All right. So yeah, again, take a look in the chat. We've got a lot of different responses here, right? And so the question then becomes, and especially as it relates to what we're going to be talking about today, is what's your version of truth? Some people may have heard, I saw a lot of people that were doing like green needle. I saw some people that said like brainstorm. Let me see, what are some other ones that we had here? Darth Vader voice. Slinky. Okay, interesting. Here's the question, y'all. Why do we have different perceptions of reality for this same sound bit? Why do some people hear one thing and other people hear another thing? Why do some people see the dress as black and blue and other people see the dress as white and gold? Here's the truth. You create your sense of meaning based on an internal representation. You don't create your sense of meaning based on the real thing. In other words, not to boggle your minds too early early in the conversation, but you're already creating your perception of reality before the stimulus gets fully processed based on a very complex set of filters known as your mindset of beliefs. Whew. So I'll let you take this one in for yourself here for just a moment. Your perception is based on how your brain is trained to be able to understand it. Your internal representation of reality is just that. It's an internal representation of how your brain decides to assign meaning to whatever's actually happening out here. So then the next kind of logical question then becomes, well, how is this happening? How does your version of an internal representation happen and become different than somebody else's? So let's go all the way back to when we were 0 to 7 years old. And when you are in this very young stage of adulthood, your brain is still forming and fully developing, right? And so we're not yet fully conscious beings capable of forming our own sense of meaning and truth. And so instead, in those younger years, we create our sense of meaning and truth based on what we observe and model from the behavior of others around us. So if you think about, like, for example, when you were learning how to talk, when you were learning how to walk, all of that was based off of two things: observation, watching others do the same thing, and then modeling the same exact thing that you observe from others. And so what's really fascinating is that during this time of 0 to 7 years old, your brain is mostly in what they call this theta wave state. And the crazy thing is that theta waves are the exact same brain waves associated with hypnosis. So if you want to think about it like that, we're literally being hypnotized by our environment and others around us from 0 to 7 years old, where we're creating our kind of foundational sense of meaning and reality. And again, this kind of creates then this sort of program for our brain to then be able to fully function. It's this foundational download to make sense of our environment that then sticks with us for the rest of our lives. But in the meantime, because we're still forming our brains all the way, right? We're not capable of fully consciously thinking on our own. We create most of our meaning from emotions, the way that, things make us feel, as opposed to the thought of it all. And so here's what happens. When mom and dad come home from work, a long day at the office, and maybe they're yelling, or, maybe dad just retreats to the basement with his beer, and you feel a little bit icky inside, right? Your young brain really wants to make meaning of this. And so you make meaning based on who you are, because your brain doesn't know how to understand others, let alone yourself yet, right? And so you say to yourself, why are mom and dad not paying more attention to me? Why is dad mad? How do I get more attention from mom and dad? And so then, based on what we've observed so far from 0 to 7 years old, we begin to model that, you know what? Oh, if we work really hard, and if we get really good grades, and if we participate in all the activities and get all the participation trophies, then mom and dad will be proud and we'll get our emotional needs met. So here's the thing. Normal part of being human. It's nothing to beat ourselves up about. We seek validation as a way to get our emotional needs met, especially as young children. So then all of that ends up creating this belief from a very young age that I'm not worthy of XYZ. I'm not worthy of love, attention, value, unless I work really hard, unless I do all the things, right? Unless I make everybody proud. And if I don't do those things, if I don't do XYZ, then I don't receive acceptance, then I don't receive love, then I don't receive attention. And so we respond, even from a young age, from this place of pressure, urgency, and most importantly, especially as millennials, competition based on the programming from society, our parents, the education system. And society is really just programming our systems of belief to do one thing. And that one thing is to keep us safe, right? Beliefs are illusions of repeated internal representations that are designed to keep us safe. Safe from what? Safe from undesired experiences, safe from undesired emotions, right? And then what happens is we reach the age of 7 and the brain becomes kind of fully developed enough for us to then begin to create our own, conscious sense of meaning, right? But the thing is that it does that by using the same program that was downloaded before as its foundation. And so there becomes this kind of filtering effects, right? These beliefs that we adopt from 0 to 7 years old begin forming this sort of like algorithm. And here's the crazy reality for y'all, kind of a mind-blowing fact for you, is that we are bombarded every second of every single day with approximately 130 or 25 million bits of data, just like a bit of a computer, right? A bit of information, 25 million bits per second that we're encountered with. But our conscious thinking brain can only process about 134 of those bits per second. And so what happens is, rather than our brain using up all of its energy on conscious thinking to create your sense of reality, the brain then begins to kind of lean on the subconscious mindset of beliefs as a way to save energy. Yeah, I see the O faces popping up here. Yeah, just you wait. We're just getting started here. And so as a way to save energy, because that's what our brain likes to do, and create efficiency, it says, okay, well, because we can only process 134 bits of data, what else is the subconscious going to go ahead and make up for us so that we can create this kind of full picture at the end of the day? And there's this fascinating part of your brain called your RAS, or your reticular activating system. You can let me know in the chat if you've ever heard about this before. But the RAS is what is forming this filter. And it filters in evidence to support the belief. And so if we have a belief that says, I'm not enough unless I do XYZ, well, then the RAS seeks out evidence to fit with what you focused on up until now. And so the RAS, your brain doesn't give a crap about what you want right now and going into the future. Your RAS only knows how to do that filtering process based on what it's known from your past patterns. So whatever you believe to be true is what your unconscious mind is going to seek out evidence for, and furthermore, filter up to the conscious brain for meaning making and processing. Y'all with me so far? Give me a thumbs up in the reactions. If you have any questions as we're going along, put them in the chat, put them in the QA. Good deal, good deal. So your mindset of beliefs, in other words, then serves as this sort of filter in your brain to decide what information is going to be most important for you to actually process, since you can't process all of it on your own, to then save energy and become efficient. The brain can only make conscious meaning from that which fits with whatever we believe to be true. If we can't believe it to be true, well, then what's going to happen is that out of those 25 million bits of data, everything that you actually want is living outside of that set of beliefs, right? Good example of this is the placebo effect. It works when you believe it will work. There are like some fascinating studies that have been done out there in terms of the placebo effect, where like people that are being given chemotherapy and people that are being given the placebo for chemotherapy, And the people that were given the placebo believed that they were getting chemo, but were really only getting the placebo, started losing their hair. It works when your brain accepts it as true. Yeah, it's pretty darn wild. So get this, 90%, most neuroscientists and whatever out there would agree with this, that approximately 90 to even up to like 95% of our meaning at any one given moment is created by the subconscious. Only about 10% of it is based on what you're currently aware of what you're thinking right now. So the program, in other words, the beliefs create this highly filtered, highly edited, highly altered internal perception of reality that we call our life, that we call our reality, mostly based on an association to all of our previous memories. So if we kind of take this full circle, then here's the thing. Your meaning of reality is just that. It's a perception of reality. And our perception of reality is based on how our brain has been trained to be able to understand and make meaning from the stimulus to then create an internal representation. So your version of quote unquote truth is a perception of truth. But let's be real, that's really all that matters at the end of the day, right? And this is all based on those programs that create the filter for your reality. Your subconscious is making the meaning for you, not from actual reality, but based on past patterns that influence our own unique internal representations. Another way to think about this is the mind is what the brain does. And so our repeated conscious thoughts up until this very moment in time created these hardwired subconscious beliefs. And these beliefs then create our mindset. And our mindset is what's creating our perception of what we call reality. But you're not actually experiencing the fullness of reality. You're experiencing a perception of reality. So this is kind of a tough one to grasp onto here. So a few like metaphors for you to consider, right? Your brain is like the hardware and your mind is the software. So the hardware, the brain, initiates actions based on whatever the software is that's been installed, the mindset, right? Another good way to think about this maybe is that your life, your mind is a printout of every decision that your brain has made up until now. The decisions that you've made, the habits that you've adopted, your personality, your identity is a printout of the mind. The mind uses the brain to create the mind. And this is done by associating to an existing program, or if it doesn't fit, it gets thrown out, right? And so, Maria, I'd like to go back to Kinko's then. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So here's what happens, right? Over time, our behaviors are then confined to this tiny, tiny little box called our beliefs. And everything else that's out here that is simultaneously existing in the outside reality, it still exists, but we're not aware of it, right? And who knows, maybe there's even like, alternate universes or whatever happening out here, but we're not aware of it because it doesn't fit in the box called our beliefs. And here's the thing, y'all. This doesn't just affect your current perception of reality. This isn't just like did you hear the word green needle or brainstorm? Did you see black and blue or white and gold, right? Because the brain is a meaning-making, prediction-making machine. And so it uses that same box of beliefs to not only make meaning from an experience, but also to predict what might happen next based on those same set of beliefs. Basically just priming our brain for a future perception before it even happens. So in other words, you can think about it like this, right? There's like these 25 million bits of data every second, the raw data, the real reality, or is it, and then what gets perceived here in our perception is that highly, highly filtered reality. We call it our reality, but in real reality, it's just a highly, highly filtered version of it. So especially for millennials, there's this combination of not only these beliefs about what we have to accomplish and how productive we have to be, but now you combine that with a long-standing series of past traumatic historical events means that our brain is not only predicting the worst case scenario before it happens based on all of our past trauma, but it's also programming us to work harder and stress ourselves out as a way to avoid the prediction from coming true. Woo! Yeah. So these beliefs, again, form this sort of prediction algorithm that runs our life based on our past and keeps us stuck in a mode of reacting to stress. You are not the only one. I promise. I promise. So I'm going to dive into this with y'all a few more minutes here from a brain science perspective, and especially what's happening with stress and burnout. Okay. So anytime that we experience a negative emotion from our outside world, fear, anxiety, stress, threat, there's this part of our brain called the amygdala. It's this tiny, tiny little almond-shaped part of our brain buried in the emotional, beneath the emotional cortex, and it acts fast, much, much faster than when we experience emotions like joy and peace. Okay, because the amygdala, this emotional, processing part of our brain, it processes all emotions, but it prioritizes negative emotions. And it does that as a way to prepare our body for fight or flight and to make sure that, you're ready to either run away fast or to fight whatever is around the corner before it happens, right? So that's your amygdala in action. And I'll give you one of my favorite experiments that kind of illustrates this. There was this experiment done, I think it was like back in the early 1990s in a lab, where they put these participants in front of a computer screen, right? And they showed them a series of images. Some of the images were very neutral, and some of the images were purposefully shown as like emotionally triggering images, right? And they hooked these participants up to these EKG, EEG machines to measure their hearts and their brains. Here's the fascinating thing, is that approximately a half a second before the picture appeared, the brain and the heart had already started changing rhythm. And so the brain was already making meaning based on the fast amygdala before the full internal representation was formed by the visual cortex. It took more time for the visual cortex to create an internal representation of what was really being seen than it did for the emotional cortex of the brain to react, and specifically the amygdala, and increase heart rate and change the brain waves, right? And so call it precognition, call it whatever you want, right? But our bodies are literally reacting to things before the actual stimulus is fully processed. Yeah, I see a lot of comments here that are very similar. So hopefully y'all are starting to see that, yeah, you're not alone, right? We had to tune it out. Lisa, you're exactly right. I always say this as kind of like, it's a sad truth, is like millennials are really experts of dissociation, right? We have gotten so used to one thing after another that we just can't deal with it all at once. And so we have to just say, you know what, let's just stuff that one down. Let's deal with that one later, right? Promise you, it's not just you. Adam, I think a lot of this burnout that occurs too is the fact that we live in a more expensive world in comparison to our parents. Oh my gosh, yes, right? It's the whole standard of wages versus cost of living is way out of proportion compared to 20 years ago. There's several of these different kind of pieces of things. Stephanie, yeah, I'll definitely provide that as part of the follow-up, or shoot me an email if you want it individually. So anyways, what's happening here is this is a good example, this experiment of us creating this internal representation before the information is processed by the parts of the brain that are responsible for sensory meaning, right? Our past beliefs and experiences are creating this filtered version that influences our present perception. It's a lot. I know, y'all, it's a lot, but by knowing all of this, you are going to be incredibly empowered to then change all of it, right? Benjamin, master's degree in dissociation. Again, you have to become aware of the issue, of the root issue, before you can make really meaningful change. So, based on our subconscious associations, our emotions to the experience, the brain then takes that information received from the senses, sends out all the message that are going to release the cortisol, the adrenaline, putting us into fight or flight. And then before it even makes it to our brain for some cognitive, meaning making, everything has already happened before then anyways. The reactions in the body have already happened. By that point in time, we're just filling in gaps. But your emotional subconscious has already, got you in a fight or in a state of fight or flight before you even create the full picture. And during all this time, right, your emotional brain is on high alert. Then the logical thinking brain is on low volume. Why? Well, because this ain't a time for reflection or thinking. All of your energy, your brain thinks, is required for you to survive. And so, since your conscious brain doesn't have the energy required for logical thinking, thinking runs as a subconscious process, all based on our past. So let that one soak in for a second. Our beliefs, by default, are creating our current perception of reality. Our brain is relying on the same subconscious set of programs formed from 0 to 7 years old as this algorithm to predict the probabilities of our future based on our past. Rather than us having the full capability of our conscious logical thinking brain, our past perceptions create our future projections. And so let's get to today then. Today, here we are as adults in our 30s and 40s, and those same programs that we picked up from 0 to 7 years old that tell us that we need to work really hard to achieve success and receive validation and actualize our goals are still running in the background. And I'm sure you can all relate to this. Give me a yes in the comments or a thumbs up, is that there's that certain blueprint, right? That as long as you follow it, you should be golden, because that's what we observe from others. And we continue to model it because it's all we know. So here begins the work, my friends. We're gonna go through this together. It is going to be a step-by-step process. I want you to ask yourself right now, and you can either jot this down somewhere, put it in your phone, whatever it may be. Think about it from the specific perspective of success and achievement, right? What belief do I hold about my level of success and achievement? And that's most likely going to be rooted in societal expectations. Feel free, you can put it in the chat if you're comfortable sharing it out, but obviously I know this is very personal work too, right? So feel free to write it down. Think about it like this too, if you're having trouble along the way, is if I don't get XYZ, or I don't get XYZ, I don't get the attention, I don't get the love, I don't get the reward, unless and that's the belief right there. I'm not good enough unless whatever that fill in the blank is there for you is going to be the limiting belief. Yes, Lisa, I did all the things I was told, and why am I not successful, right? And so because, again, then we put it back on ourselves. We say, well, it must be something wrong with me, so I need to keep working harder. I need to keep doing more. Audrey, I don't deserve self-validation unless I'm perfect. Yeah, millennials are very experts at perfectionism, right? Because it's kind of been one of those learned behaviors of ours to say, if I don't do everything perfect, then I'm not enough. So start thinking about this now, because all of this is also going to kind of come in play as we keep going through not only the rest of today, but also the rest of the next 2 weeks. So these beliefs, right? These beliefs keep us stuck living in the patterns of our past. And we're still trying to use the same self-protection mechanisms that we used to gain mom and dad's approval 30 years ago as our way to achieve our goals today. Work really hard, stress yourself the frack out, and maybe eventually somebody will recognize you. The mind keeps us stuck living in a pattern of our past. And furthermore, that same set of beliefs then sabotage our growth and potential by canceling its possibility. I want you to think about this for a second, and if you're comfortable, put it in the chat, and I'll use maybe an example or two in the chat. Simply, what's a goal that you have for yourself? It can be short-term or long-term. What's a goal that you have for yourself? Stephanie says to get my PhD, be present in the moment, save for a house deposit. Okay, perfect. And so let's use, oh gosh, there's a lot here. I'm going to use just someone that says like grow a business, right? I'm going to use that as the example here, right? That's a pretty simple one that maybe a lot of us maybe want to do our own thing and stop working for the big man, right? So let's say that you say, okay, I want to quit my job and start my own business. Well, if the subconscious tells you that it's going to take too much work, it's going to talk you out of that before you even take the first step. Our beliefs sabotage our growth by canceling the possibility before we could even take the first step. Our beliefs at any point in time are determining our perceptions, and our perceptions are determining our experience of what we call reality. And here's the thing, we end up avoiding change. We avoid change because even though our current reality may be a little bit uncomfortable, at least it's in our comfort zone. And at least we know it. It's something that's known. Change requires us to step outside of what we've known to be true for our whole lives and into the unknown. And so our beliefs also then become these self-fulfilling prophecies that keep us stuck and afraid of making change. Here's the thing. Society never taught us how to be happy. Society teaches us how to be safe. So we don't set goals based on our own identity. No. We set goals based on societal norms. And millennials are a good example of this, right? Because how many of us strive for more creativity? We want more purpose in our lives, right? But the society, the landscape says, there's no time for creativity and purpose. You got to go out there and get the white picket fence house in the suburbs. You got to go get the corporate job and put a ring on it and have a big family, right? And move to the suburbs. We are conditioned to strive for goals based on a very short list of options, degrees and career options that society has defined as the only possibilities based on the goals of a culture, right? And so we're living and we're spending our energy for someone else's goals, for someone else's dreams. So what do? We put on a mask for about at least 10 hours a day to make sure that the beliefs of not enoughness are not seen as true by others. Our truth then becomes, if I just keep working harder, if I just keep, wearing that millennial badge of honor called stress, and if I keep stressing myself out with a smile on my face, nobody will ever think that I'm not enough. Give me a yes in the comments if it's true for you so that you can see that you're not alone, right? So here's what I want you to ask yourself next. You identified, or you've started to identify the belief. And don't worry if you're not able to identify this yet. But the next step in building this level of awareness and recognition is also then understanding what's the mask. What is the mask that you wear to prevent the belief from being seen as true by others? I'll give you an example here. Again, if I go back to this whole idea of burnout as a millennial, and I say, well, I'm burnt the frack out. I don't want to keep working this hard, right? But the belief says that I learned over time is that my level of worth comes from my level of productivity. And so I'm not enough unless I'm overworking myself, right? And so the mask then becomes, as long as I continue people pleasing, as long as I continue overcommitting, well, then nobody will ever see that I'm not enough. Nobody will ever even be able to uncover that kind of hidden fear of that belief that lives in the back of my mind. So think to yourself right now, take a few moments. What is the mask that you are wearing to prevent the belief from being seen as true? Is it people pleasing? Is it overcommitting, right? Oh, Sarah, that's a good one too, right? The mask of like staying small and quiet. Not to get too vulnerable on you here, but like I grew up with an alcoholic mother and I was embarrassed of being seen in public with her for so long. And so when I got into my journey as an entrepreneur, it took a lot of inner work to realize that, oh crap, I still don't want to be seen by others. I feel like if people see too much of me, then I will be embarrassed, based on the same belief that had been stuck from my childhood of living with an alcoholic mother. Just another example there for you, right? So begin thinking about your mask. Masks get put on because they hide the fear of not being enough. They hide the fear of not being lovable enough, of not being smart enough, of not being good enough. And when we think that we see the belief coming true in any instance in our world, we mask right up to avoid confronting it. And what happens? It then oftentimes leads to even more pain than before. The mask does its job by keeping us safe from the sticks, right? But the thing is that it also prevents us from approaching the carrots. So for us to be able to actually do the inner work that we're going to be getting into over the next 2 weeks here, we also need to really get real with how has the mask that we've been putting on, how has it benefited us? Because we've obviously worn it this long for one reason or another, right? It's had some sort of benefit. So think to yourself, whatever your mask is, if it's overcommitting, if it's hardcore imposter syndrome, if it is working longer in people pleasing, how does it benefit you? What does it keep you safe from? Put it in the chat if you're comfortable, or think to yourself. Keeps me in my comfort zone. Keeps me from rejection. Yeah, I can resonate with that one with the example that I just gave, right? As I was wearing that mask of if I just stay small and don't let people see me for who I am, well then, you know, hey, at least people won't judge me and they won't reject me. Keeps me from coming undone completely. Nice. So keep thinking on that one, right? Because this is the real part of a lot of the inner work, is getting down to the bottom of some of this. So there's a good question in the Q&A here as well. Audrine says, so do the masks prevent us from being vulnerable enough to take the mask off? So yeah, we're going to kind of get into this here next as well, right? So I'm going to hold on that question and see if we can kind of answer that as we go into this next part here as well. Because here's the thing, right? If you don't believe that you're enough, are you even going to even try to approach the carrot? If the mask that I put on says, well, if I just stay small, then nobody will judge me. But at the same time, if I just stay small, am I even ever going to try to approach the reward that I seek in my life? So then the other question here becomes, yes, the mask keeps us safe, but then how does the mask sabotage your growth and development? What does it keep you stuck from feeling? Maybe if you are wearing that mask of people pleasing, then really it keeps you stuck from being able to feel your own sense of joy. You're so busy trying to make other people happy that you don't actually ever have time as a people pleaser to make yourself happy. So it holds you back from, whether it be holding you back from doing something, saying something, feeling something, or being something. See some ones in the comments here, right? Keeps me from taking chances so I won't fail. So the safe part of that is that it keeps you safe from failing, right? But if that's just a prediction, because we can't actually predict the future, right? Then we're allowing that subconscious mind to hold us back, because the subconscious mind says, no, don't do that. Don't do that. It might be a little bit risky. It might be unsafe. The subconscious mind is just making a prediction. It has no idea what's going to happen in your next moment of reality. It's just making a prediction. So once you can begin to kind of realize that, then that's, at least for me, what allows me to then say, okay, if all my mind has been doing is just making these crazy predictions based on worst case scenarios from all of my past trauma, well, what if I just decide, even though it's going to be scary as all heck and get out, to allow the mask to come down and just see what might happen. See if the prediction ends up coming true. Because, 98% of the time, the prediction's not actually going to come true. So over the next 2 weeks, and I'll get to the rest of these Q&A questions as well, y'all. Over the next 2 weeks, we are going to do the work to take back control. Remember what I talked about before is that the subconscious runs about 90% of our meaning of reality and the conscious runs about 10% of that. Well, guess what? We can use the power that exists in that 10% of the conscious mind to reprogram the 90% that's happening in the subconscious. Ask the tough questions to ourselves. What's really true? Challenge those beliefs. But here's the thing, y'all, it's going to be uncomfortable because challenging our beliefs means that we have to change our thinking. And as we all know, change is uncomfortable, but it can also be extremely exciting because it means that you are no longer just living in a reacting feedback, reacting to life based on past subconscious limiting beliefs. This reacting cycle where the subconscious emotions drives our thoughts and actions, this is where the subconscious influences the conscious. This is where life happens to me. This is where victim mode plays out. What we're going to do instead is we're going to dive into the next 2 weeks of how to shift that feedback loop, to shift and reverse that cycle and go from reacting to creating, from a life of life happens to me to life happens for me. Creating feedback loop is a life where the patterns are formed by the conscious influencing the subconscious, not the subconscious influencing the conscious. Here's one of the last things I kind of want to end with here. Just read it to yourself and let it soak in. You're not damaged. There's nothing wrong with you. You are perfect the way you are. It's just that you are controlled by the beliefs that were programmed by somebody and something else besides you. And it's not your fault. It is not your fault that you've got this system of subconscious beliefs that is dictating your day-to-day life, because who knows, before today, you may not even have been aware that they were happening, that they were there. Now, hopefully today provides you with kind of just a little bit more awareness. It's the recognition of what is the belief that is keeping me stuck and really getting at the root of it all, so that when we get into these next few weeks, we're going to be doing the good work to reprogram it. So again, the homework, before we kind of dive into a little preview here of next week, the homework is to answer those 3 questions. What belief do I hold about my level of success and achievement? What mask do I wear to prevent the belief from being seen as true? And how does that mask benefit you? Here's the thing, y'all. In order for us to let the belief go, we cannot let a belief go with resentment. Take it from me. We cannot let something that's been holding us back, we cannot let it go if we're trying to let it go from a place of resentment. But if you're letting it go from a place of gratitude, where we can say, you know what? Thank you, belief. Thank you for keeping me safe all of these years. But the fact of the matter is, I'm safe now. I don't need that anymore. Okay. What mask do you wear to prevent the belief from being seen as true? How does it benefit you? And how does it sabotage your growth? And again, next week then, and moving into even the week after that, we're going to be talking about changing the program, changing the algorithm that is creating our highly filtered perception. And to do that, we've got to change the belief that created the program in the first place. So that is what we're going to focus on next week. Last 2 things here, y'all, that I want to share with y'all. Each week that we meet, I'm going to share with you one of my, in the spirit of Oprah, one of my favorite things each week. This is not to sell you on anything. Don't get me wrong. Like, I don't want you to don't feel like you have to like buy anything, right? I just promote the things that I wish I had 2 years ago when I was kind of going through this reset journey. So this week, I wanted to share one of my all-time favorite products for burnout and stress relief. And it's called the Apollo Neuroband. And it was developed by a team of medical professionals, neuroscientists, using this neuroscience-backed research around frequency vibration. And so if you've ever heard like a certain song or listened to certain like frequencies of sounds, they can make your emotional cortex behave in certain ways. Well, the same thing works with the stimulus of touch. Just like a gentle hug makes you feel a certain way. This touch vibration basically hacks your nervous system, stimulates that mind-body connection, and sends messages to the from the body to the mind to then activate your parasympathetic system, your rest and relax. It decreases your heart rate. It increases your heart rate variability, which is one of the best indicators out there for stress resilience. And again, it just kind of gives your nervous system a little gentle hug. I don't know if y'all can see my I have my shared screen up here too, but I have one on right now. It looks just like a watch. And yeah, it just uses gentle vibration technology. It gets you into different brainwave states for meditation. Really fascinating stuff. So I'm an affiliate with them. So they give my audience $40 off. And so you can either use the QR code here if you want to scan that, but I'll also send it out as part of the follow-up as well after today. By far one of the best solutions for stress relief, because the bottom line is like what we're going to be doing over these next couple of weeks is the tough kind of inner work. And so I want to be able to also say, hey, you know what, while you're doing the inner work of reprogramming your mindset of beliefs, there are certain things that you can do to also regulate your nervous system in the meantime. And instead of having to go do a yoga class or meditation that half of us don't have the time and energy for, a wearable device also is able to provide some of that same relief. So like I said, I'll provide that for you all with the $40 off link as well with the follow-up email. The last thing that I will provide in the chat for you, as well as the follow-up, is again, if you feel so inclined to make a donation today, if you're coming back next week and the week after and you just want to wait, that is more than fine with me, y'all. Don't feel like you have to do this today. But I'm going to be sending you out. I put it in the chat as well, and then I'll be sending it out as a follow-up email tomorrow with the recording. That's going to have some additional options. If you are at that point where you're like, all right, Peter, I'm ready to go. Like, I'm ready for more. I have in that link links to my self-directed courses where you can learn all the ins and outs of this, along with nervous system regulation. If you're interested in one-on-one coaching, I do still have a few open spots available for July. August gets a little bit crazy, but of course, you can always schedule a free consult and we can always talk about scheduling at that point in time. And then I also have the monthly membership program. I'll talk a little bit more about that towards the end, but long story short, I will send this out as well so that if you feel inclined to donate today, you can, or if you want to explore some of the other options, I'll remind you again towards the end of the 3 weeks. I'm going to stick on the line here, you all, to kind of answer any other questions that come up in the chat or questions in the Q&A. But get ready for next week, because next week we're going to be doing some of the real inner work to reprogram the algorithm, to reprogram the beliefs. So excited for that. Be sure you join next Wednesday, same time, 4:30 Pacific time, 7:30 Eastern time. And thank you all so much for coming. I cannot wait for the next 2 weeks that we have together here